So, hey, do you know what ENT stands for?
There were a couple in the I'm going to forget exactly what the problems were, but it was in the ENT space. So there is a certain, I want to say it was a nose surgery, and just the way that they have to do the surgery is very challenging when you get, sorry if anyone's
No,
squeamish,
I
but when
love
you get
this. You're fine.
right up
This is my
into
world.
right up into the nasal cavity. And so
So, hey, pretentious engineer here. I know you didn't ask, but this is Cindy Robinson, and she is absolutely incredible. She is an engineer. She's trained in Stanford Biodesign. She started her own company in Canada called Vessl, and she is passionate about helping patients that have navigated amputations regain their life back. So, when a patient has an amputation below their leg, and we'll get to ENT, their volume of limb will change size. Sometimes it's bigger, sometimes it's smaller. This can fluctuate throughout the day, throughout the week, or over multiple months with weight loss. And when you design a prosthetic to fit on that limb, the prosthetic is the same size and the patient has to keep changing socks. It's super uncomfortable. And she's developed an incredible technology with her team. They've gone from white paper concept to commercial verification or commercial readiness, which is wild. And I had the opportunity to sit down with her, and we got into all kinds of wonderful spaces such as ENT, which I will define near the end of this video. But I have placed all of these markers in this to talk through different clips and go a bit deeper. I have a tablet so that we could actually like deep dive. I can sketch engineering stuff. It'll be nerdy. It'll be fun. I have to pick up my kids in 27 minutes from the bus. So we'll see how far we get. And we'll start with a promise I made to provide some context, and then we'll just go marker by marker, and it should be fun. And as a quick context to our audience, because my audience is super broad across medtech and then all of my previous content creation before I was really doing surgical robotics content, I'll do everything I can to make the language of this discussion as inclusive as possible for folks who might not be deep in medtech, engineering, entrepreneurial spaces, but you could still speak at your level. And then I'll also record a second SIPS deep dive video that breaks down this conversation. So like I'll sketch and do other nerdy stuff beyond the hour that we have together. So to frame the dialogue, so let's jump in. It should be fun, but a quick message from Joe from the past. Hey, pretentious engineer here. I know you didn't ask, but this episode of Sunday Sips is caffeinated by Kinetic Vision. Throughout my decade-long career in surgical robotics, I've worked with many medtech consultants, and without question, Kinetic Vision stands in a league of their own. They masterfully curate the art of science, accelerating innovation through advanced technology. Their capabilities, creativity, and candor have consistently made them my most trusted digital external innovation partner. We've collaborated across continents and time zones, tackling challenges and unconventional ideas and taking them from white paper to fully functional MVPs. Their contributions, from early concept generation to usability studies, test automations, digital twin creation, VR simulations, and beyond, have been pivotal in moving breakthrough ideas towards real-world clinical use. My partnership with Kinetic Vision has been a decade in the making, and it's an honor to introduce you to their world-class capabilities. If you're facing technical challenges beyond what you can do in-house, I trust Kinetic Vision to help you find the path forward and empower you to innovate on behalf of global patients and the clinicians you serve. Finding the right partner to drive digital transformation within your organization and product pipeline is critical to the long-term success of a medtech business. So check out the link in the description below to take the Digital External Innovation Readiness Assessment, which includes a waitlist for experiencing a discovery session with Kinetic Vision. It'll take you less time than it takes to finish your coffee or tea, and it'll provide you with greater clarity on if Kinetic Vision is right for you. Anyways, you could sip on that, and let's get back to Sunday Sips. All right, I'm assuming you talked to Joe from the past. Let's get to Joe to the future. So first marker, this is gonna be fun.
Inside of a prosthetic.
Oh yeah, so this will give a bit of context on exactly what vessl is. I'll make this big so that you can get caught up, and then we'll go into some fun details.
Leg that never changes size, which leads to pain, frustration, and often a loss of independence.
We heard the story again and again from users, from clinicians, and we knew something had to change.
At vessl, we're really dedicated to empowering people with leg amputations through devices that adapt to their lifestyle and their limbs instead of having the amputee have to adapt to the device.
To us, mobility without limits means having
First of all, Joe's coming back. Where am I? There I am. That is the co-founder. So he's leading all the engineering tech side. And then Cindy, who I talked through, is the CEO running the whole business. Now, they both wear a lot of hats in startups, but just wanted to point him out. He's fantastic. I'll put a link to his LinkedIn profile as well if you want to follow his content. All right, let's keep rolling.
independence back. It means less interruptions throughout the day, and it means putting on your socket and forgetting that it's even there.
Our journey started at the Medical Innovation Fellowship at Western University, where we saw a major gap in prosthetic care.
What we noticed in the industry is that traditional static sockets are just that, static, and they did not provide the adjustability that people would generally need throughout the day and in the long term. And what we wanted to provide was an automatic solution that was not bionic, something that works very simply through motion and allows you to have automatic adjustments to your fit.
Okay, coming back. There's my face. So let's sketch some stuff, which is fun, and explain what's bionic. So, hey, cool. So there's a lot of different methodologies you could approach to designing prosthetics or something that fits in someone's body. Now, I'm not an expert in prosthetics. I am super deep on surgical robotics and different med tech technologies. But me and Cindy share a similar framework of Stanford biodesign and how you empathetically understand the unmet needs of either clinicians or patients and then design new solutions on their behalf. So if we look at a nice person over here, I'm just going to explain what bionic is. And let's say, unfortunately, they lost their limb right below their knee. There's probably multiple ways to navigate this. There is a purely mechanical prosthetic. This is my terrible job drawing a prosthetic. This is their remaining limb. And then what they have to do in order to have this fit well is they need to, if we zoom in on this, there's this space here, right? So a prostheticist, oh no, it's erasing all of the leg. Let's not do that. We need a smaller one maybe. There we go. So basically these prosthetics are actually incredibly expensive. They're like on the order of like 10 to I think 20K, because you have to get fitted. They have to find a way to make this portion fit your limb, because everyone's limb that's remaining is different. And then what you do in this gap right here, there's a nice gap. I can't draw it the other way, but like right here, they have to adjust that gap fit with a whole bunch of socks, and they measure them in different plies. So this is a mechanical means of connecting to the leg. When we get into vessel solution, it'll actually adapt to this difference in thickness through some cool mechanisms, which I'll draw up, which is neat. But bionic limbs, we'll just draw one on the other side. This is like all the crazy futures that people think about, and these kinds of solutions also exist. They're expensive. You can put, I'm just going to draw lines. You could put different sensors on the limb, the remnant limb, to like send neurosignals up to the brain and back down. Like there's a lot of smarts you could embed in bionic connected augmented devices. So maybe, and I don't have the best example of this, but maybe you have a way to provide flexion on the foot so the foot can move up and down, because the body's sending a signal that I not only want to move my leg, I want to move my foot. And you could have all of your circuits and wires that connect into motors that move stuff back and forth. Like this would be a bionic implant. You could also have the ability to kind of sense like how tight it is and automatically tighten or decrease the tightening with mechanisms powered by like computer control of electromechanical systems. So you could have robotic solutions that bionically interface with the body. What's neat about vessl that we'll get to in this video is it's 100% mechanical, so it's cheaper, it's a little bit simpler, and it's a really novel solution that I like. So let's keep watching. Let me get rid of my tablet for a minute. back at it. Cool.
From early prototypes to real-world testing, our focus has always been user-first. Our engineering team is committed to continuous innovation, ensuring each detail enhances user experience. Through dedication and support, we've garnered recognition and funding to propel our vision forward, and we've turned an idea into a movement. This work led to Kin, the adaptive system that automatically adjusts to each person's limb volume change, ensuring a consistent, comfortable fit throughout the day.
First of all, Joe from the future. I nerd out on any kind of like animated exploding CAD mechanism things. One of my favorite ones that we're just going to take a detour and find. It's from a product that I touched called Harmonic 1100. I touched it through the technology being adjacent to another technology. Let me see if I can find it really quick. But like, I love these marketing kind of videos, and especially when some of them like tend towards truth, but they take a couple detours. So let me see if I can find this one because it makes me laugh every time. Harmonic 1100. It's like a beautiful engineering promo video. This one. So we're gonna nerd out for a minute on a detour, and then we'll get back to her because that would be fun. They even have dubstep in it, I believe.
The wave travels down the shaft to the device that enables precise energy delivery to aid in protecting healthy tissue or vital structures is important to most surgeons. While Harmonic is an ultrasonic device, the technology allows it to be used in place of advanced bipolar
I've actually never seen
devices,
this one.
such as LigaSure Maryland. To understand how devices in the Harmonic portfolio can help
Show
you
me
to
the
achieve
animation.
electrical
Explode it.
energy from the generator is sent to a transducer containing a stack of piezoelectric ceramic discs, which convert the
So
electrical
good.
signal to a harmonic wave. This causes the device's active blade to expand and contract more than 50,000 times per second, creating mechanical motion. The wave travels down the shaft to the
It does
active
not move
blade,
like that.
and this motion moves the active blade tip 50 to 100 micrometers. This motion creates frictional heat when in contact with tissue, first
Get it.
coagulating, then cutting tissue and vessels.
Makes me so
no
happy.
electricity ever passes through or to
We're gonna get back to
tissue or the
Sydney.
body.
I had an
Frictional heat
idea.
breaks down hydrogen bonds, denaturing proteins and creating a sticky coagulum, along with uniform smoke.
Okay. Cut
In
and seal.
contrast, advanced by
Okay. Anyway, I love videos like this. So when I first saw Cindy's team's promo video, which we'll get back to, for a startup, I was like, that is so clean. And they bring all the other mechanisms together. They animate as well. I have some other stuff to show. But like, it is in parity with the stuff that J&J puts out, which is remarkable from a promo perspective. Now, for this, we're not going to go into Harmonic, even though I could talk about Harmonic for hours. I've worked on this product for so many years. Well, this technology across multiple products. The vibration doesn't. We don't have time for this. I have to pick up my kids from the bus. Back to her. Such a nerd. All right, let's get out of here. Sorry, my engineering brain flew away. Let's watch her.
It uses movement to power these subtle adjustments. No motors, no batteries, just practical and thoughtful innovation.
For veterans, for
I think they're gonna go back. I'm over here somewhere. I think they're gonna go back to that animation. There's some stuff I want to call out with it, or actually I have another animation to the right I'll show. So let's just listen to the rest of this.
athletes and everyday users alike, Kin means the freedom from the daily struggle of fit and function. One of the first people we worked with was Stevie, and his feedback helped shape how we think about device usability.
How's it going? This is Stevie. Today was my first day testing out the prototype. Little background about me. I've been an amputee for just over 4 years. I'm an extremely active, adaptive athlete. I do a lot of sports, whether it be rock climbing, snowboarding, cycling, zone jiu-jitsu, skateboarding, mountaineering, and the list goes on.
So one of the reasons that Stevie is such a beautiful customer to understand is the variety of movement and demands that he puts on a prosthetics fit. So when you're trying to develop a product, and whether you're connecting with clinicians or patients, it's not just about being proximal to clinicians or patients. You have to be proximal to the right clinicians and patients to actually understand the right umbrella. Like, I'll show you. Come over here. Grab my tablet. So life often follows a normal distribution. Okay. And if we have our average, this is, I think, not a good stats person. 66%, I think, is in this main region. Let's say this is like your normal limb amputee. Normal kind of lifestyle. They're always like, they get up, they walk around. Maybe they, as an extreme, like cut their own grass, like pseudo-normal movement. You might have people on the lower end, like way down here, that are more sedentary couch champions. Right. So very little demands put on this limb other than like when I go from couch to fridge, I need to be able to walk, which is still very important. And it's very important. Now, Stevie is up in this range, right? Not everybody is going to do rock climbing, climb mountains, do skateboarding and kick flips and have a prosthetic solution. So this is what we call a corner case. When you're looking for clinicians or patients to do ethnographic research with, you want to like work this whole, oh my God, that's so terrible. You want to work the whole spectrum, but I am always hunting for this pocket, because in this pocket, you can normally find insights that you would miss in the majority of folks. But often if you can solve the problem here, like if you solve it here, it's going to drive value to the majority. Not always, but often it will drive value. So an example of this, like I worked in surgical technologies across robotics, that harmonic device, stapling. We often interacted with clinicians. We did ethnographic research, like immersing in procedures to understand what was going on. And we developed products. A lot of that, not always, was US centric. We often did engage other markets. But there's desire for me to go out to Japan, to travel the region, connect with clinicians, and drive those insights into our business. Japan, in many ways, but not all, is a corner case. There's some very extreme uses of our technologies that happen only in Japan or in APAC. But if we solve these problems, we can drive it back into our base business. And I have time to unpack what those nuances are. They're fantastic. I mean, with that harmonic device, typically in Japan, they'll take very, very tiny, precise tip bites, which put a lot of thermal load on our device, which is pretty cool and challenging to work on, versus in other contexts, they'll just take full bites. There's also other abuses Japanese clinicians put on our technology because they're so focused on really good clinical outcomes. So all this to say, like, Stevie is a remarkable case study to work with, and Cindy unpacks a little bit more about like how she met Stevie later, which we'll get to. So let's jump back into the video. Magic buttons.
But today was my first day testing this out, and for being the first human patient trying it, it was incredible. It's a super comfortable socket. The self-tensioning system is gonna save me a lot.
Okay. We'll get to this. Never mind.
Time throughout the day. The socket is automatically tightening, so I'm gonna eliminate the need for putting on different ply socks to fill the gap, and it's gonna keep it super comfy all day long. And when I get done at the end of the day and it's time for bed, I'm gonna take it off and have a lot less discomfort and pain that I'd get from a standard socket. Show you right here, there's a release button. So these panels all come out right here. There's a mechanical dial right here. You just turn.
So I'm going to call something out. Oops. I'll show it on a different video.
And then as I step, the shock system is going to be self-tightening to fit my residual limb exactly how it needs to be.
Okay, we're going to sketch that up. Come back. All right. So let me pull this video over first, and then we'll sketch it up. So this is one of those, like, I'm going to refresh this page. This is one of those beautiful animations that I love it. It's so perfect. and we're going to kind of talk through this design. I don't know, I don't have CAD of this, so I'm just going to kind of pause and look at different features of it. So you have these panels, and I don't know, can I pause this video? Pause it. Wait, there we go. So these panels can push in and out of the patient's leg, so they can provide compression. They squeeze, like these 3 panels pull together. And there's a wire system that I don't fully understand that will put tension to bring them in. And then the black shroud will kind of hold its position. And these wires are connected into a base plate that the tensioning can be adjusted here. I would love to see what's going on inside the kin piece itself. By the way, a prosthetist, all the T sounds, they will actually fit the patient for this black region. I'm not sure how the panels work, but this is all custom shape that the prosthetist, I'll add all the tists until I get it, will make to fit the patient. And then the base plate, and I'm guessing the cable system, is all vessl that they would distribute. So there's some handoff between the clinician and vessl I still don't fully understand, which is interesting. But let's watch the rest of this and then I'll sketch some stuff. Hit play. So you could just turn the knob to drive the cables in. And then there's a set screw that will like pre-tension the whole system. Oh my gosh, I want to see inside of this thing. If I had one, I would just take it apart and break it. They also have pressure limits to prevent like a over constriction of the limb. Okay, so let's maybe sketch and see what we understand. Pause that. Okay, so oh my goodness. Without knowing anything about this device besides talking with Cindy, I'm going to try to understand it. All right. And then you have, I'm going to draw it front view, I guess. So you have some kind of panel here. I'm making it boxy. And there's some cables that will wrap around, maybe go down, go up to the other panels. Again, we could draw it right if we really committed time to it. And this will go into some mechanism. And there's something magic happening in here that I want to understand. You have this manual tensioning knob that you could rotate to likely increase the tension here or decrease it. So when you push up, when you step, this plate will move up, and there has to be some kind of like inverting pulley system from what I understand. And the pulley has to be connected to here. Again, this is all guesstimation. I'm sure it's much more novel and simple than what I'm drawing, but that way when you drive this up, it would then push this pulley relative to this pulley, which would create higher tension and kind of pull the whole system down. And then when the base plate releases, it would then loosen the distance between the cables. There's something going on with tension. And then this knob has to be connected into here in some capacity. Maybe it could drive it in radially in or out to increase it. And then mechanically, they had to design it so that it would only deliver a maximum amount of squeeze within some kind of safe limit. So you're going to have some interesting user requirements here on, like if you start from there's different ways to lay out requirements. So you have CLRs, which are your customer level requirements level, and every company like calls these different things. You have PLRs, which are your performance level, and then you have SLRs, which are your system level. You have SSLRs, which are your subsystem. And then you have like CLRs, which are your component level. So like we'll just do like a quick cascade around this out of curiosity because it's fun. And then I'll probably pause and we'll get into other markers because I got to get my kids off the bus. So this is going to be a 2-parter, but it'll be 1 part for you, 2 parts for me and my brain. So like a customer level requirement would be, let's just scroll down a little bit. It's like for a CLR, this is how you design a product. The user shall feel, shall not. I'm trying to see what I want to say. I want to talk about the compression the user experiences, but I want to make sure it's not performance level. So a CLR is typically qualitative. So when you're doing a medical device that's a class 2 or class 3, something that's going inside of someone's body and coming out, or an implantable, something that's high risk, like robotic surgery, your CLRs are what you validate. So it might be like the clinicians want to be able to cut through device with a sense of ease. And then you would then have them do a pig lab where they're cutting through different colorectal tissue, doing a procedure. Then you'd ask them qualitatively, like, hey, was this acceptable for you from a thermal spread perspective? Was this acceptable from a transection speed perspective? Like, it's always a little bit higher level. There's not a quantity on it. It's more like thermometer, good or bad. Not always, but most of the time. Whereas your PLR is like, you should be able to transect through this specific tissue this quickly with this level of confidence, and you could prove it statistically at high volumes. Now, because this is a class 1 device, they don't have to navigate all of this to this extent. This is just like my over-constraining nerd system engineering brain wants to break this down and bound it so that it's scalable for manufacturing, and you could always make sure your system's delivering what it needs to. So, like, the user shall feel. There you go. We're in the feel limited discomfort during routine movements. And you'd have to define what those are in order to do validation on that, like have the user walk throughout the room, have them walk up a set of stairs. Like, you'd have to define that and then be like, did you feel limited discomfort during this range of motion? Be like, yeah, it was comfortable. You could have another one of like, the user shall not feel the device slipping during movement would be another one. You have like a slipping requirement, or like a fit requirement, slip-fit. Both of those would then drive into a PLR. So PLR around this could be, if we're going with limited discomfort, the device shall not deliver, this is really fun. I like this. It shall not, I'm trying to figure out if you would want to quantify this at the PLR level or the SLR level. I did system level requirements in surgical robotics across multiple work streams for like a solid 2 years of my life, more than that actually. So this is like bringing back happy memories of like how you constrain and the words and what you want to test. So the system shall not deliver, the device shall not deliver more than, we'll just make up a number, 4 newtons of force. But it'd be a pressure distribution. Like, how would you measure that? No, you can measure the Newton. Like, you could put a plate, a force gauge, and pull it down and squeeze. Like, I'm figuring, like, how did you fixture this thing to test these plates moving in and out and how much they push when you compress? It'd be a fun rig to make. More than 4 newtons of force per plate with like 90% confidence, not a statistician, 90% confidence at X probability. And I, like, anyone who's a stats geek is going to look at this and be like, what are you talking about? Basically, you have like a normal distribution, or you have to get the data, figure out what the distribution is, and then you normally want to make sure you're within a certain statistical confidence that you will hit this requirement so that your risks are mitigated. So there's a risk. So if you had a DFMEA, design failure modes, effects analysis, you might have a failure mode where this provides like too much force that causes the patient to experience some kind of bruising or pain or constriction of blood flow to the remnant limb. So your DFMEA risk, the risk would then drive the PLR, the performance level requirement, and then the stats, your quality engineer would help you determine what these statistical confidence is necessary based on the risks that could occur and the different outcomes that could come from that. Okay, I gotta get my kids off the bus, so I'm gonna pause this as video 1, and we will come back and maybe not do performance requirements. I got lost. This is so fun. Hey friends, it's a new day, new shirt. Super excited to dig back into this edit. Also, for folks who want context on this, and I'm sure none of you do, but I'm going to tell you, this is from one of the best biscuit restaurants in Nashville. If you go to Milk and Honey, they're absolutely fantastic. They have like these pistachio pastries that'll just change your brain, change your life. But anyway, let's get back into the actual edit. So let me click all of the magic, because we definitely got lost on some requirements, and I would apologize for that, but I'm not going to. Actually, I have to click one more button because I don't have the monitor to see myself. Let me do some wizardry you can't see. And boom, I know where I'm at. There we go. Okay, cool. So we spent a lot of time working through kind of this video they had as a walkthrough. Let's start clicking on some of these different moments, and I'll see what lingering thoughts I had. I worked at Johnson & Johnson for a decade, progressing different surgical robotics technology, handheld laparoscopic instrumentation. And I can barely count on my hand how many things have actually made it to market out of all of the different projects we've prioritized in those spaces. When Otava launches, I touched that extensively, which is like our full robotic system. But it's just so beautiful to see, like what does it mean to you the first time you put that limb on that individual? I forgot his name. I think it was Jason. Stevie, sorry. Like, what was that moment for you and the team?
It was one of the best moments of the company so far, because you work so hard. And so when you do see someone actually using it, you're like, okay, so we've done it. Like,
so there's so many spaces I want to expand on this. First of all, watch the full podcast, because the way she expands upon the feeling of seeing someone wear her product that she's worked on for multiple years is just absolutely beautiful. I got to see some of our technologies that I worked tirelessly in the lab progressing out in the field, used on Japanese patients during my time there. And it is magic. Like, it is so cool knowing, like, feeling all these moments as an engineer when I was in the lab with other engineers strung out trying to figure out why our science isn't sciencing the way we need it to science. And you're fixing stuff, you're testing on tons of tissue, and then finally you get this thing all the way through design verification, and it's robust and it makes it to the field, and then you see clinicians using it and saying, like, this device is amazing. It is a really, really cool feeling. So I've shared that as well. That was with Harmonic 1100. I supported that team in a lot of their testing. I leveraged some of those technologies in other applications, which was fantastic. But I want to talk a little bit about new product development, because a lot of you maybe don't know all of new product development and all the ways that a project can die. So we're going to go back to Tablet World. But before we do Tablet World, I'm going to bring you to LinkedIn, because I think this will be actually a really helpful mini demo, because I have an animation. So we'll let the animation speak. Let's go to LinkedIn. And friends, I have 20 minutes before I have to go get my daughter from school. So we'll see if we can get through this or not. So if we go to my main profile, I have a pinned post. My internet is a slug today. So everything you need to know about me to do your homework. So if you click on this, I have a whole bunch of content here. This guy, the virtual portfolio, I should just make a post of just this. It's more clear. Let's pull this up. Like any healthcare giant, J&J has a robust MPD process, from unmet need discovery and front end, all the way to launch excellence and product stabilization and lifecycle. Now, I've had the privilege of working across this entire continuum over the last decade at Johnson & Johnson, where I've advanced a wide range of surgical technologies, including device instrumentation, advanced visualization, digital solutions such as AR and VR, as well as robotic surgical systems. Plural, as in I progressed 2 platforms from 2 J&J acquisitions, Verb Surgical and Auris Health. And in February... Okay, that's probably enough for me. Let me see. I want to talk about this chart. That's why I pulled this up. See if any of this else is helpful. No, none of that's helpful right now. You can watch that video if you're curious. This talks about everything I did in Japan. So we got the mouse in view. Okay, cool. So do I want to redraw this? What's the easiest? Let's talk to it first. So when you're developing a new product, UMN is unmet need. You're typically trying to find an unmet need in the market. Oh, I could click this fun view and this will still look good. Ha! Science. It's not science, it's tech, whatever. So you're trying to find a clinical unmet need, like a way to navigate dense pleural adhesions in a patient, or like a way to cut through bone faster. And you realize like there's a gap between the technology available to clinicians and the problems they're facing. From there, you also have to develop new concepts and review them. And one thing I didn't list on here is you also need to have like a commercially viable path forward. So you need an unmet need. This is what I call the innovation trifecta. Imagine a triangle. You have an unmet need. You have technical feasibility. Can we actually make something that meets that need, a concept? And then commercial viability. Is this a profitable area? Do you have a TAM or a total adjustable market that you could reach? Do we have the sales force in place that could actually position this product to make it profitable? And then that allows you to understand like how large is this opportunity? Do we continue to progress it? So every company does this differently, but holistically the flow's similar. At J&J, we had what was called front-end discovery. So we had our front-end group trying to find unmet needs, developing concepts, reviewing those, and that also included the business case. And then we make this decision of, we want to charter this project. We know how long it's going to take us to develop it. We've burned down risks around NUDS, N-U-D, which stands for new, unknown, and different. And we think there's a pathway to go from this concept that we've made, which is probably a high fidelity prototype, all the way to through design verification, through design validation, through FDA clearance, like 510K, all the way to launching the product. And then the business commits real money to it. In front end, this is a scrappy team. I mean, you normally have decent budgets kind of doing this research. It's not like zero. If your front end has no budget, you can't do anything. But at this point, it's like we're going to kick off $12 million worth of R&D development over multiple years to knock this thing out. Right? Thank you, Akio. I don't need it. So you can go watch your show. Don't miss Wildcrats. Lucky boy. So the reason I wanted to share this is once you go from charter decision into detailed design, you have like a full scaled up team pushing this product through. So you have quality engineers, design engineers, you have your production engineers that are working with manufacturers, you have regulatory, clinical, global strategic marketing, like everyone's on here, whereas this is like a little scrappy team working it through. And you're pushing, you go through your detailed designs of making the product, and then product readiness is like you pass design verification with your production product, like you make it on your production equipment, you test it to prove that it's safe and passes all the requirements. Then you go through validation where you put it in the hands of clinicians and say, hey, does this deliver on your unmet needs that we captured all the way upstream? They say yes. Submit all that to the FDA and other regulatory bodies globally. They say yes. Then you launch it. Then it goes into life cycle where you maintain it. Like things fail in the field, you get adverse events, you got to go and change it. I've seen projects go through the full funnel, all the way through detailed design verification ready, and killed. I have seen products go all the way through the funnel, design verification, through 510K, into launch, and after a few months, killed. One of the best examples of this, I think I just did a post on LinkedIn about this. We go back in time for a minute. And again, this is homework if you want to go dig through stuff that I've pulled together, if you really want to nerd out on it. I did a case study on a project that made it all the way through to commercialization and killed. It was called Sedasis. It was a lot of millions with zeros on the end of it invested on a product over a decade that then failed in the market. So if you go to videos, you'll see this one with me next to this system, sedation, the rise and fall of J&J Sedasis. This is a phenomenal, terrifying case study of how far you could get with a technology, work on it for a decade, and then the market doesn't receive it. And all the hands that touch it don't get that experience of Stevie wearing the leg, right, that Cindy was talking about. So this is a quick, I didn't show you. This is just a quick aside, right, on like what this could look like. So let's jump back into the video, keep rolling. And next one.
Helpful.
Yeah, and from initial idea Like I know you did a lot of ethnographic research, was my understanding. So we'll get into that. But like from the point you started looking for this opportunity to Stevie, how long was that of work?
That was 2 years and 2 years and 6 weeks.
Yes, of showing up every day, innovating products, brainstorming. Yeah, and how so this is an area where I wanted to really drive appreciation. Like folks don't appreciate how much consistent work in one direction is necessary to actually launch a product. There's this beautiful book called Essentialism. Let me pull back up my tablet for fun. So there's this diagram. I keep looking up because my monitor's up here. I hate this diagram. It is a humbling diagram. I try to break the rules of this diagram so many times, and it always doesn't work. So there are two versions of you. Okay, this is you now, future you. Again, I disagree with this in many ways. These labels are for me. You now might want to put effort towards a whole bunch of different things. This is all your energy going out. So if you're thinking about being like an entrepreneur and starting a business, maybe you're like dev a product, drive sales, regulatory, build a team, finance, Fince. I like Fince more. We're gonna keep it. Content creation, and naturally, this is our favorite one, right? I don't know if that looks right. This is supposed to be fire. All the fires you put out, your efforts, especially if you're a solo founder, like they go everywhere, and it's very hard to have impact because you are moving from thing to thing with a lot of agility and a lot of aggression. What essentialism focuses on is what if you took all those vectors and just kind of like stacked them up in one direction? What is the highest? The question I'm always asking myself every morning when I do this stuff is like, what's the highest leverage thing I could dash should be doing dot 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 and let everything else burn. So if we look at like my journey as an entrepreneur and some of the things I've had to let burn, it's crazy. Like I've let international tax liabilities burn for the last 6 months because I've been focused on getting revenue. I have a community of 200 plus people that I can't engage perfectly because I have to build a team to engage them so that I can do the higher leverage profitability things associated with my business. Sometimes I have to let short form edits wait because I have to get these long form podcasts out. There's always this area of like letting things burn to find the highest leverage so that you could be focused in one direction. And this is what Cindy has done for 2.5 years to get a leg on a person, right? That is what's required in medtech because there's so many different things you have to move. You have to move across these, but you have to move across them in the right order, always chasing leverage, or you will just spin and never move forward as well, which is brilliant and stressful and hard. So let's get back to Cindy. All right, what's our next one?
Was about 10 months. And we spent most of it understanding the problem. So a lot of
Okay, so she did 10 months of market research, clinical immersions, trying to understand what unmet need they should go after as a team before prototyping and making stuff. A lot of times folks will find one or two ideas, they think something will work, and they just start building stuff. I worked with a startup that unfortunately bootstrapped their own startup in Japan for like 2+ years on a product, but they had a limited understanding of the commercial viability and the unmet need and individuals' capacities to pay for the solution they're developing. So they had a lot of challenges of like they built this great product, but they didn't have folks with the capacity and willingness to pay for it 2 years later. So spending that 10 months of focus on understanding the unmet need and analyzing the market is so critical before you ever touch CAD or create, in my opinion. It's something as an engineer that it's super humbling that that's how it should be, because engineers want to just make stuff, like make tech for tech's sake. And if you don't have someone who's ready to receive it and pay for it, it's really hard. In medtech, it's even more complicated because of all the regulatory and payers associated with it. So that was a cool little insight. Demise to fit on the user.
So this is a really good question, because initially we said, oh, well, wouldn't it be great if we just built the whole thing for you? And the answer is no, it's not great. And the reason for that is twofold. First, the prosthetist is the expert. They know exactly what little modifications need to be made to make a massive difference in socket fit. So we need them and their expertise to do the socket fabrication. And the way that the billing system works in the United States is you are reimbursed for what you're able to kind of build and bill for the devices that you're making. So
okay, so we're going to talk about healthcare. This was a massive double insight she found, and it applies to like anyone in medtech. All right, so there's two beautiful assumptions she hits on. I'm going to write them down first, and then we're going to like unpack them. Let's just give us some space. So the two things is assumption one. Let me just write assumption. One is just engineer all of it better. Assumption two is don't pay attention to reimbursement. So the way that people get access to products is a clinician has to like the product. It has to provide clinical value to the patient. And there has to be a way to get reimbursement for it so that the hospital can be paid or the clinical practice can be paid. You know, I'm imagining prostheticians have like little offices that they work in. Maybe they're parts of large hospital networks. I actually don't know. But one of the great insights her team found was if they designed the whole solution end to end, if they had some system where someone puts their leg in it and it measures it and then it just automatically 3D prints this thing and then it all connects together and they pop it on end to end, the prosthetician hasn't done their job enough to get reimbursement to pay for that amazing technology that's made that possible. It doesn't mean that you can't get to that point somewhere in the future, but this number two is a huge find for them of you need to understand the financial pathways to get you paid. So you have to, when you're developing a new medical device, you have to look at what other medical devices exist in these spaces that I'm similar to. Am I premium price to it? Am I the same? And then how do I make sure there's a pathway towards reimbursement? Otherwise, there's no way that clinicians can adopt your technology, or they're adopting it at a financial loss, which some will do to progress better outcomes for patients and then let the government bodies and legislators and not legislators. Is it legislators? There's a lot that goes into like policy shaping around reimbursement standards, and it's different from country to country. It's super nuanced. So I just love that her team found this. Like this was like a triple check for me on not falling victim to like, don't pay attention to how it reimbursed. Just make a great solution and do the whole thing yourself. The first one that she said is like engineer all of it better. There's kind of this assumption of like we could just make the whole leg, but you're actually bypassing the skills, the capabilities, the nuance of these clinicians that know how to analyze someone's limb and provide a better solution. Now, as you move into different digital AI solutions around this, giving them better tools to measure the leg and then augment the fit, like I think that's definitely within her future portfolio or pipeline. But having this assumption that we could just engineer away all of the technique is sometimes a pitfall that we have. Like when I went into surgery, at the end of every procedure, the two surgeons are typically in Japan. Normally, two surgeons do laparoscopic surgery, not always. The two surgeons are like talking and sewing the body together. It takes a while. And I kind of asked him, I was like, well, what if we had like a robot that could just like, like just sew all this together so that you can move on to the next case or things like that. And for them, the scar or the lack thereof, like the quality of how they sew someone together, that is the artistry and the gifting the surgeon brings to that space. It's their mark. And also there's like a bit of connection and rapport building between the clinicians as they have closure over the case, that you don't want to take that away from them. And the same way from our prostheticists, like they know how to find the right fit. You just need to give them an augmentation to that leg that adjusts the tension in real time based on the volumetric change in the limbs. So those are kind of some cool assumptions and insights. Let's see, I think I can keep going a little bit more. Let's see how far we get. And sometimes I don't make it through all the markers. That's okay.
Which was for an orthosis. So it was an ankle foot orthosis, kind of went up the calf muscle and on the foot to help a 5-year-old girl move. And that was extremely rewarding, as you can imagine. So
just the beauty of medtech is it touches people's lives. I have another guest coming up soon, Harrell, and I just did a post with him. Let's see. I love this post so much. Like, his son is navigating cancer. He just navigated surgery. He works at Fresenius Medical, and they make in-home dialysis machines, which my grandfather's using. Like, the touch points, like the humanity and the healing that comes from the work we do in these spaces, it's just so beautiful and cool. So that was just a little spark that she gave me that I picked up on and loved. Looking at TAM, right?
Yeah, total addressable market. You start to look at total addressable market and what's the reimbursement structure? Like, who's buying this?
Okay, so this is all commercial viability. I am going to draw this really quick because this is like my mark or my thing. Making me page for it. And then I got to change a diaper because I can smell them. I got to go pick up my daughter. So we'll pause here. So we have this beautiful triangle with a circle. You have your unmet need. You have your tech. The H, feasibility. You have your commercial. Hi, buddy. I know. Maybe I'll end it here. Feasibility. And then right here you have branding. This is what every good business needs. This is why vessl is killer. Okay? Because they found a way to center this thing where so many people fail. So a lot of the companies I've consulted, or even within Johnson & Johnson, different engineers progressing new technology, sometimes we get stuck in this corner of advancing tech. We call it tech push. Like, you make a stapler. How do you make the stapler a bit better? You just make it better without considering, is that solving an unmet need? Oh, careful, dude. What did he do? Oh my goodness, he changed my camera. I don't even know how you did that. Okay, cool. Is it solving an unmet need? Is it commercially viable? Can you sell it? And also, do you have a strong brand presence around it so that you could increase the pricing? So a lot of times folks will miss this. I call this the innovation trifecta. Trifecta. It's deceptively simple. Trifecta. I'm adding extra T's. And unfortunately, businesses will waste tens of millions of dollars not having this optimized, and then they fail in the field. They fail in commercial. They waste hundreds of millions of dollars on platforms that fail. So it's one of those things where you have to get the unmet need, tech feasibility, commercial viability aligned at the front end of the project, and then you have to have the right branding power to position it in the market so that you get the revenue you desire. Like, all of this has to work in concert with one another. And, you know, if you're a startup, if you get all this right, you start to like drift into unicorn territory. So with that, I have other lingering thoughts from Cindy. She is an absolute delight. Okay, friends, it's like day 3, new shirt. I got to pick up Emiko from the bus in a little while. So I think we could finish this because there's a lot of other great moments that happen here. So let's hop back in. All right.
Take his leg off, put a sock on, put the leg back on. And then throughout the day, he's also doing that. So it's just very, very limiting and frustrating for people.
Well, it's just downtime, right? Where you're not actually engaging what you want to engage because you have to stop.
And okay, you know, I want to go for a walk with Joe. Better make sure I grab my bag with my socks in it just in case I need one while we're walking, or, right? Like, little things like that that you wouldn't think about make a big difference.
Okay, so this is just another beautiful insight of being proximal to patients and understanding these really subtle pain points that could so easily be overlooked. So what she was describing is based on how their leg thickness is changing or volume is changing, they're putting on and taking off multiple socks throughout the day. And while it'd be easy to dismiss that as like, well, it's just socks. Like, think about every single time you're transitioning between different spaces or having to travel with your socks, as she's saying. It is actually so extreme. I think maybe the next one shares it that someone said, like, I would rather be uncomfortable or not use it altogether just because it is so tedious and challenging. Like, imagine choosing not to walk because of how much you have to change the thickness off of your leg to accommodate a solid, like, hole from a normal prosthetic. So, just beautiful insight there. So, what you have this list of all these unmet needs that you start to find. You're having these conversations with clinicians, you're understanding your total addressable market, there's a possibility there. This is a fun side path. What else was in your top 3 to top 5 that you couldn't pursue in order to focus on this? And how did you make that decision?
That's such a good question. What were
Okay, so this is such a cruel question. We're not going to go into her answers. You can watch the full podcast with her, which is beautiful. But I remember like we traveled across Japan extensively, attended tons of surgical cases, particularly in thoracic cancer for lungs. We had 200 plus unmet needs that we could go after. And we had so many meetings trying to figure out, like, from a business case perspective, a technology perspective, a commercialization perspective, like what need goes to the top of the list. And you get all the way to the top, and you're like, okay, we're going to try to do something with this need. And there's always this ache of number 2, number 3, number 4, and just knowing that right now the business won't prioritize it. And also for me, just being in industry long enough, knowing that as people move in and out of an organization, number 2, number 3, number 4, which is a beautiful, beautiful insight, will be lost because organizational knowledge is often lost. And because this is often internal proprietary market research, which I have very strong thoughts about, you don't share this with the wider medtech innovation community because potential competitors could step into those spaces, which means that those unmet needs continue to be unserved. And it creates this really interesting sense of like innovator grief, if that makes sense. So when she goes through the list, like, it's really interesting figuring out like why she funneled towards um, vessl as a solution. But at the same time, I feel this deep empathy of like there's so many needs that so many people could progress solutions for. That's why I actually love being external for a bit as a consultant in the medtech spaces, because I can play across and dance across those and elevate different unmet needs that anyone can pick up and do something about. Like I did that video about sedation, automating sedation. Like someone can start something now because I shared it's still a need that people have forgotten about. Yeah, let's keep rolling. Way to blink in a given population in order to blink, or at least that was what we used within Ethicon. So, okay, I'm gonna sketch for this one. It's funny, like I have a DM I just checked for a job thing, and I really want to stop and engage it, but I was like, I've been working on this video for 3 days, so I'm gonna just let it sit there. But at some point when I play a video, if you see me grab my phone, it's because I'm like chattering with someone about a potential opportunity I'm excited about. It was totally unexpected. It was like I saw okay. So wait, let's talk about Stanford Biodesign. Stanford Biodesign. But I want to lock in on you. This is a good story. So this is a language you can leverage for any marketing, ethnographic research, which I'll redefine. If you're trying to understand an unmet need of somebody, this is a beautiful framework. I love it. I've used it multiple times. A way to blink in a given blink. This is population. In order to link. So what's great about this is you could create a spreadsheet, and this is like column 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and you could just run them all down. And then on the right section, you could start to look at like your TAM, total addressable market, how long it would take to develop a solution in these spaces, risks and unknowns. Like you could put a lot of different things. IP is another one. But let's do like an example. The one that I was going to share is a way to navigate dense pleural chest adhesions. And I'll break this down for you in a minute because it's a really interesting, nuanced unmet need. And so the given population would be, say, like in Japan's super aged population with multiple comorbidities. We'll define this in a second. In order to reduce risk of harming, what would you say, like, I'm going to say invisible because I can't think of a better word right now. Invisible critical structures. So let's break this down. So what's a what's a dense pleural chest adhesion? Well, you have we're going to say this is, oh my gosh, my torsos are getting terrible. This is Henry. Hey, right, he's very excited. Unfortunately, though, he's got lung cancer and needs to have surgery, which is not as exciting. I think your lung's on the right side. Terrible, terrible. So your lung has multiple lobes in it. And if you are older and you've already had surgery, let's say you've had, oh man, we're going to have to go deep. This is a terrible version of a lung, so I apologize. I am not a clinician. Google it. I know like one half has 2 lobes, the other one has 3. Someone in the comments is like, no, it's got 6 lobes. I don't know how many lobes it has. I'm sorry. I've only seen so many of these surgeries. But there's different ways to navigate if you have cancer. If you have a ton of cancer all over this, they will just take out a full lobe. This is called a lobectomy. And it really impacts your breathing ability after the fact. It's very vulnerable when you lose this much lung capacity, but you kill the cancer and maybe you get to live longer, right? And there's different like survival rates associated with all of this. The other option, and this is, I saw a lot of these procedures in Japan and Nagano, which is really interesting, is if the cancer is really isolated, you could do something called like a segmentectomy where you take out a segment of the lung. There's also like wedge resections where you take out like a larger section of the lung. And there's different reasons you would choose different approaches based on the size of the lesions, where they're located, how you want to navigate lymph nodes. Like there's so much preoperative planning that goes into it. But what I'm getting at is like, let's say you had a segmentectomy previously, but you can still hear a little bit, but the cancer continued to progress. Then you might need, this would be called a revision surgery to go and cut more out, which is unfortunate. But sometimes when you have a surgery like this, you could have adhesions. Adhesions are when you have one tissue and another tissue, and tissue grows between them and connects them. So this can occur all over the body. I'm not an expert on how these form and why, but I know that the older you get and the more surgeries you've had, the greater chance of adhesions. And when you're trying to access the lung, you have to go in through small ports into the patient's body. And if the lung is adhered to the, like, I'm going to call this a membrane. I don't know what the main tissue is above the lung. Tell me in the comments, all you surgical nerds. But if you try to separate it could be connected, and like you have to work through the tissue layer by layer by layer by layer by layer to then release the lung from the body cavity, the chest cavity. And there's critical structures in the lung that you could accidentally harm, and there's different approaches to it. So we had this insight of like, this could be a really substantial unmet need. concerning what's progressed or not progressed from this, I've been out of J&J for a while, so I don't know, but it's a problem that surgeons face, and I think that's important to elevate. So in navigating dense pleural chest adhesions, and this population is important. Like Japan has the largest growing elderly population in the world. And when you live that long and they're also fairly healthy, you have a lot of comorbidities where you're getting multiple disease states at once, and it becomes more challenging to treat. So this phenomenon could be exaggerated by how old they are, if they've had multiple comorbidities or surgery elsewhere might infect adhesions. I'm not sure. And then, ooh, so many messages. Okay. In order to reduce the risk of harming invisible critical structures. So you have, oh man, it's been a while. Like there's arteries and veins and vessels and things you don't want to hit. I don't know where they're located in the lung. But when I was in it, and I've been out of it for a year. So like I have to remember these surgeries, which is tricky. So anyway, this is the Stanford Biodesign methodology. You can leverage this language for any problem. If you're in orthopedics, which is like bones, you could be like a way to cut through meniscus with limited bleeding. I don't know if meniscus is bleed. Okay, so that's me running really quick with it. But yeah, let's keep going. Let's see what else she's got. This magic button. And over here. So that's your mini Stanford Biodesign course subscription as well. And then finally, friends, keep changing the world. Let's get back to pleural adhesions, and Joe from the past can... Oh, that was next steps from the session. Speaking of next steps, you should join my Skool community. It's awesome. There's a link in the bio, and I can help you build the life you desire, living where you want, loving what you do, being paid well for it. That's the mini plug. I'm not going to demo it because we got too much edits to get through. Let's keep rolling.
But it was nerve-wracking at the beginning. So we brought Ed on a few years ago, and then this year, after that successful financing, we were able to hire on a whole batch more people. So we went from 3 in March to 7 now. And that's mostly on the engineering side still, but we also have a marketing associate now, which...
So this is absolutely incredible. Many startups die before ever reaching the point of actually onboarding a team. Other startups die because they onboard a team too quickly and they run out of money. So there's like 2 things you're always fighting with. I'm going to pretend to draw a graph that makes sense in my head. I'm completely freeballing, or that's not the right words. That's old high school, Joe. I'm just going to improvise through this is the posh political way to say this. Oh my God. Like there's 2 challenges you're navigating with a startup. All right. So this is like your cash and this is time. Man, my phone is lighting up. And then this is time, and we'll call this bar speed. So startups, if you bootstrap it, maybe let's say you saved up $50,000 to start your own startup. I've met people that have done things like this. Actually, some that's racked up a lot more than that. Every single day, you're burning money, and then kaboom, failure, dead. Or you find a way to kind of stretch the money a little bit longer. Boom, dead. Or you then right around here do a raise, and all of a sudden you give away part of your business so that you get more cash. This should be piecewise. Dang it. It should be like a step. All of a sudden, ta-da, money, burning. Do another raise. Ta-da, money, burning. So Cindy has navigated the strain emotionally of trying to progress technology while at the same time trying to keep enough money into the house to like make it work. Employees suck money. So you want to be very careful with who you hire when and in what capacity. I've done consulting for startups, and it is not the funnest place to consult because I can't charge equitably for my services because they are like dollar for dollar fighting for survival. Eventually I want to get to a point where I have enough cash flow that I can consult for equity, and then I can really increase like value to these different startups. And then if they're successful, then I get a return on that investment. But I got to feed 4 kids. So I'm in this weird messy middle of like, I have amazing capabilities to consult medtech startups, but I can only consult the ones with money or ones that are like doing good raises. Or the other pathway is like, somehow you find a way to like, it's a SaaS or something, and you can get gradual revenue to slowly increase across this. So one of the challenges though is you have speed. And if you want to be moving quickly, then you need like more people often. less people, less quickly. It's a really simple graph. And you want to add the right amount of people at the right cash inflection points to push over this hump where like your money's working and your people are working together, like as opposed to everything dying all at the same time. So Cindy, to get to the point where they were able to hire one person, that one most important person, whoever they are, and they stuck with it. And then they expanded the team now to 7, and now they're hiring more. Like, it's beautiful to see what she's building, because this is where things live and die. But if they can stay the course, it can be financially viable for her and her team, but also it's going to advance like really meaningful medtech innovation that helps a lot of people. So that's just quick scratch on money. Let's see if we can get through the last couple of these.
Startups that I think is underappreciated when you start and is a skill you really hone quickly as you develop out the company.
And I think to build upon that, like, because I've navigated a year of all in entrepreneurship, I've hit zero multiple times. The strain and the impact on family is incredibly challenging. As an entrepreneur, as a business owner, as a CEO, you are attracting the worst problems. Like, you have to continue to face gaps in your know-how or your capability and climb and then push through. So how have you I want to pause. For those of you who haven't done it, you truly do attract the worst, hardest problems, most awful trade-offs, decision making. Like, when you venture out of the comfort of a 9 to 5 corporate job, especially if you have like a kind of cush engineering job like I had. I had a great leadership job as well, which was very challenging but fairly well compensated. When you venture out into your own world, like, you got to figure out how to do marketing, how to build team, how to develop a product, how to, get people to know about it and purchase it and keep the business alive, and the financials and the international tax liabilities. You just attract all the hard. Like, it's so funny navigating like job interviews and stuff, because I don't have any fears the way that I did. Like, I've done 14 months of all in entrepreneurship. I've started to get revenue. Like, it could continue to progress as a full-time thing, but from a medical benefit stability perspective, like, I want to bring my skill set back into an organization and just push it forward in a radical way. And I don't know what that will look like, but every interview I've gone through, like, I'm not scared about anything, because I've already attracted the hardest stuff. So moving back into corporate, I don't want to say it's easy mode, because to everyone else in those spaces, they're working hard and it's challenging, but it's different. Like, taking 100% of the risk versus stepping into a larger business and navigating the risks and betting with the business's money versus your money and your effort, your time, and your family and their stability being on the line. So I just want to echo that. This face captures it all from Cindy. It's a perfect face. All right, let's keep rolling.
To build their network, just reach out. LinkedIn is the one that everybody goes to. So just reach out on LinkedIn, and chances are that someone will respond if you are asking for help.
This mirrors a podcast I had with Steve Bell, where he talked about like, no ask, no get, but you have to kind of want the ask. You have to be able to step out and build these connections. And Cindy has just such a beautiful way of communicating this joy and this vision around what she's doing that captivates people to help, because there's right ways and wrong ways to navigate networking and connection. When you are networking to get, it feels slimy and ucky, or if you're networking too many levels too high in one jump, it feels too much of a reach and you're not providing mutual value. So the way that she can just captivate people to come alongside her and offer support and guidance from their experience is beautiful. And I encourage you to probably connect and ask for help more than you already are within your given context. And you never know where these things can go. Like, right now, the DMs on my phone is from somebody who just moved into the location I'm at in a leadership role, trying to hire someone for a special job. And they supported me as an external consultant when I was doing innovation work. And they did phenomenal work, and it was really fun working with them. And I sent them a DM as they just posted a job, and they're like, "Hey, this is really interesting." I was like, and I'm at the top of the stack. Like, stuff like that happens because you network proactively. I worked with them 7 years ago. but now this could be very timely for me and my family. I don't know where it'll go, but it's just an encouragement. Like as an entrepreneur, you need to have people around you. Again, if you want people around you, come hang out in my community because there's people building businesses, there's engineers, there's global leaders. It's a weird, diverse, beautiful group of big brains. So come and check it out. I think we have 2 more.
Move into one role depending on how the company grows. So I'm willing to be flexible.
Yeah, it's beautiful. And vessel, you know, is a ship that takes you somewhere is the language you've used for your patients, but also as the CEO, like you're crafting the culture of your organization and what kind of ship are you crafting for the people that want to partner with you and build with you in these spaces?
Yeah, a very inclusive ship, I would say. It's one of the things that me and my co-founder are most proud of at Vessel is the community that we've built internally here. Everyone here is phenomenal. We work really well together. We get along really well. We eat lunch together every day. Like,
Oh, that's so awesome. This is just selfish on this video. I miss eating lunch with people. This is so strange. I had the opportunity because I was doing some stealth mode consulting I can't talk about, but I got to actually have a meetup with someone who flew in from another country for stuff I can't talk about. And to just like break bread with another like med techie innovator, engineer, brilliant dude for 3 hours and eat and talk all these different innovation things was so cool. So she's building a very localized in-person team in Canada. If you live in Canada and want to be part of Vessel, definitely reach out to Sydney on LinkedIn. But that culture is really beautiful to nurture. When we lead global remote teams, there's different challenges creating those same kinds of moments. But it brought me back to like my days in Cincinnati, working with different engineers, going to lunch and connecting and talking through like it's when like all the philosophizing happens, right? It's at lunch and then you go back and you push forward what needs to be pushed. But it was so cool. We got one more, I think, and then I'll release you out into the wild. Also, for the kin system, it's only for amputations above the knee, right? Is that the current form
we
factor fit?
most will be below the knee,
Oh,
actually.
sorry.
Yeah, to get started,
And
you
below is
can.
in the shin region, right? Just to clarify.
Exactly.
Okay, so I just wanted to call this out. I felt super insecure screwing that up. But when you are trying to develop new technologies, when you're interacting with clinicians and trying to understand their unmet needs, like learning how to have a sense of contentment when you screw up in your words is so important. And getting that additional clarification instead of just sitting in the uncertainty is also important. So like as soon as she said like no, it's below the knee, I was like, well, let's confirm it's shin because the way that you like when you're doing device instrumentation, you have like proximal and distal. Proximal is how close it is to the hand, distal is how far away it is. Like sometimes the way that things are notated can be confusing. And I just wanted to make sure that people with the right amputation at the right spot knew what product could or couldn't serve her. So that's just an encouragement to step out, make mistakes. I'm not perfect at this stuff. This podcast isn't perfect. But that's just what we do. Well, anyway, Cindy's a remarkable big brain. I hope you've enjoyed Second Sips. And I don't know what next steps look for you. I'll put some cool stuff in the description. There'll probably be some other videos that you can explore that way and keep changing the world.